Emotional intelligence is not just a soft skill, it's your silent power, the invisible advantage, the missing link between talent and success. And today, we unlock one layer at a time. Welcome to How to Master Emotional Intelligence and Social Skills. In this audiobook, you are about to take a journey inward into the way your emotions work, the way you react, the way you connect, and the way others see you. This is not about pretending to be confident. This is not about manipulating others. This is about understanding yourself so deeply that no one can pull you out of balance. It's about reading a room before you say a word. It's about owning your energy and becoming the kind of person people trust, listen to, and remember. It doesn't matter how smart you are. If your emotions control your life, you could have degrees, titles, and skills. But if anger runs the show, or if fear drives your decisions, your intelligence won't take you far. That's where emotional intelligence comes in. It's not about knowing more, it's about feeling better, responding wiser, acting with purpose instead of reacting with pressure. Think about this. Life is not a logic puzzle. It's a constant dance of human energy, emotion, interaction, conflict, and connection. You don't just need to be clever, you need to be conscious and emotional. Intelligence is that consciousness, the awareness that turns chaos into clarity. It's the voice in your head that says, pause, breathe, choose your next move. This is the real game changer. Because here's the truth. Most people are ruled by their emotions without even knowing it. They get angry and call it passion. They feel hurt and call it loyalty. They feel insecure and call it ambition. But emotions aren't the enemy. They're signals, messages from the inside. The key is not to silence them, but to read them, understand them, and channel them. Emotional intelligence starts with self-awareness. The ability to notice what's happening inside you before it spills out of you. You can't manage what you don't recognize, and most people have never been trained to recognize their own patterns. That's emotional maturity, and it's rare. In today's world, emotional intelligence is more valuable than ever because information is everywhere, but wisdom is rare. Everyone can Google facts, but not everyone can stay calm in conflict. Everyone can send a message, but not everyone can make you feel heard. That's the difference between smart and emotionally smart. The latter changes lives. Think about your own journey. How many times have you walked away from a situation and said, I wish I didn't say that, or I wish I handled that differently? That's not regret speaking. That's emotional awareness, waking up. It's your deeper self showing you that growth is possible, and the moment you notice it, you are already growing. But growth takes practice. Emotional intelligence is not a switch you flip, it's a muscle you train. And like any muscle, it grows when you challenge it, when you stay calm during a storm, when you listen without interrupting, when you choose to forgive instead of feed the fire. That's real strength. That's the kind of intelligence that changes not just your mind, but your life. Now let's talk about emotional control, not suppression, but mastery. Suppression is pretending your emotions don't exist. Mastery is allowing your emotions to rise without letting them rule you. It's the moment you feel triggered and say to yourself, I feel the fire, but I won't let it burn my future. That's what emotional intelligence looks like in action. And this mastery doesn't make you cold or detached. It makes you present. It means you can sit with discomfort without needing to escape. It means you can hear criticism without crumbling. It means you can celebrate others without comparing. That's the inner work that creates outer results. The greatest leaders, the most successful communicators, the happiest partners, they all have one thing in common. They don't just know what to say. They know how to feel. They understand people. They can sense tension. They can pick up on unspoken cues. They don't let emotion cloud their judgment. Instead, they let emotional clarity guide them. But here's the beautiful part. You don't need to be born with this. You can develop it. Emotional intelligence is a learned skill with awareness, with honesty, with practice. You become someone people trust. Someone people feel safe around, someone who doesn't just react to life, but leads through it. And leadership doesn't mean having a title. It means having presence, the kind of presence that says, I am here, I'm grounded. I won't be shaken by every little storm. That's emotional strength. That's what makes you unshakable. Not because life is easy, but because you've built a mind that can handle it. As we go deeper into this audiobook, you'll learn how to build this strength, how to recognize your triggers, how to manage tough conversations, how to express what you feel without losing control, how to become emotionally attractive, not through manipulation, but through maturity, and how to read people, not just their words, but their energy, their tone, their silence. You are going to grow in ways you didn't know you could, but it all starts here, with this decision. The decision to stop being a slave to your emotions, the decision to master your inner world so you can win in the outer world. This is your turning point. This is chapter 1. And from this point on, everything starts to change. Chapter 2, the 5 core elements of emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence might feel like one big idea, but in reality, it's made of smaller, powerful parts, like the gears in a clock. Each element turns with the others, keeping your inner world balanced and your outer actions aligned. If one gear is broken or missing, everything gets off track. But when they all move together, that's when emotional mastery begins. These 5 elements form the foundation, and they aren't abstract concepts. They're deeply personal. They touch how you think, how you feel, how you speak, how you lead, and how you love. Every part of your emotional life is connected to them, and the more you understand them, the more you unlock your true power. Let's begin with the first, self-awareness. This is the root, the base of the tree. You cannot control what you don't see. You can't improve what you don't understand. Self-awareness is your ability to observe yourself, to name your emotions as they rise, to catch your patterns before they control you. Most people live on autopilot. They react the same way every time to the same triggers because they've never paused to reflect. But when you become aware of your own inner state, your thoughts, your biases, your reactions, you start to break free from that loop. Self-awareness means you start noticing. You notice when tension builds. Next is self-regulation. The art of managing what you feel, not hiding it, not faking it, managing it. Life will test you. People will push your buttons, but emotional intelligence means you don't let those moments define you. You might feel the urge to yell, but you don't. You might feel like shutting down, but you stay open. This is not weakness. This is strength. Quiet strength, steady strength. Self-regulation gives you composure. It means you are not dragged around by every emotion. You let them pass through you, but you don't let them drive the car. You still feel anger, but you speak with clarity. You still feel fear, but you move forward anyway. That's control, not over others, but over yourself, and that's what makes you unstoppable. Now comes motivation, the inner fire. Emotional intelligence is not just about calming yourself, it's also about driving yourself. Motivation is what keeps you going when it's easier to stop. It's the ability to push forward through boredom, resistance, and self-doubt. It's discipline with heart, purpose with emotion. Motivated people don't wait for the perfect mood. They act from vision, from values. They don't need a cheerleader. They are their own engine. Emotional intelligence helps you align your goals with your emotions, so your actions aren't forced, they're fueled. When you master this, you don't just work harder, you work smarter, more focused, more fulfilled. Then there's empathy, the bridge between you and the world. You cannot master emotional intelligence without stepping outside of yourself. Empathy is the ability to feel what others feel, to see beyond words, to listen without needing to reply. It's about presence, tuning in, noticing the silence between the sentences. Empathy doesn't mean becoming a people pleaser. It means understanding people deeply enough to connect without losing yourself. It means recognizing pain without needing to fix it. It means showing someone they're not alone. This is what builds trust. Respect, connection. Whether you are in a conversation, a conflict, or a leadership role, empathy is your superpower. And finally, we reach social skills, the ability to navigate human relationships, to speak with impact, to listen with intention, to lead without controlling. This is where emotional intelligence moves from inward reflection to outward expression. It's how you build influence without force, how you create space for others without shrinking yourself. Social skills include communication, conflict resolution, teamwork, influence and timing. It's knowing when to speak and when to pause, when to push and when to hold back. The emotionally intelligent person knows how to build bridges, not burn them. They know how to lift a room just by entering, not because they're loud, but because they're grounded, real present. These 5 elements, self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills, they aren't boxes to check. They're living processes. Some days one will be strong, another day you'll need to focus on another. That's okay. Growth is never a straight line, it's a spiral. You come back to the same lessons but at a higher level each time. Emotional intelligence is not perfection. It's progress. It's not about being calm all the time. It's about recognizing when you are not and returning to center. It's about learning every day how to feel more, understand more, and grow more. You won't master these 5 elements in one day, but now that you know them, now that they've entered your awareness, you've already begun. You've already stepped into the deeper version of yourself. And as we continue, you'll learn not just what they are, but how to live them, how to apply them, how to grow through them. Chapter by chapter. This is just the beginning. Chapter 3. Recognizing emotional triggers and breaking the pattern. You can't control a storm if you don't see it coming in the same way. You can't master your emotions if you don't understand what triggers them. Triggers are like invisible switches inside us. Someone says something, does something, or even looks a certain way, and suddenly we are not thinking anymore. We are reacting sometimes with anger, sometimes with fear, sometimes with shame. But where do these reactions come from? And more importantly, how do we break free? It begins with awareness. Every emotion you feel has a root. It's not random, it's not just happening to you. Something deeper is being touched. A memory, a belief, a wound. That's what a trigger really is, not just a reaction to what's happening right now, but a reflection of something that happened before, maybe years ago, maybe in childhood, maybe yesterday, but the emotional charge, that's old energy being activated again. The first step is to notice the pattern. What kind of situations keep pulling you into emotional loops? Is it when someone criticizes you? When you feel ignored? When plans suddenly change? When someone raises their voice? The more you observe your reactions, the more you'll start to see the invisible map beneath your behavior. And once you see the pattern, you can begin to change it. But changing emotional patterns isn't about force, it's about compassion. You don't need to fight your triggers, you need to understand them. Let's say someone gives you feedback and you instantly feel defensive. You cross your arms, your voice rises. You start justifying instead of listening. Why? Maybe because growing up criticism wasn't safe. Maybe it meant rejection. Maybe it made you feel like you weren't good enough, and now even in adulthood, that same fear gets activated, not because the present is dangerous, but because the past was painful. But once you know that you can pause, you can breathe. You can say to yourself, this isn't about now, this is an old wound. I'm safe. I can choose a new response. That's emotional intelligence in motion. Here's something powerful to remember. Your triggers are not flaws, they are flags. They are signals pointing you toward the places inside you that still need healing. If someone says something small and it feels massive to you, that's not weakness. That's a doorway and invitation to grow, to look deeper, to ask, where is this really coming from? And growth doesn't mean you stop feeling, it means you stop reacting blindly. You start responding with clarity. Let's go deeper. There are emotional triggers tied to identity, like not feeling respected or being misunderstood. When someone challenges your intelligence or questions your worth, it hits deep, not because of what they said, but because of what you believe about yourself. If you secretly doubt your value, it doesn't take much to set you off. But if you truly know who you are, their words lose power. This is why inner work is so important. The more solid you are inside, the less reactive you become outside. Confidence is not loudness, it's quiet security. It's the ability to stay centered even when others try to pull you off balance. Maybe someone cuts you off mid-sentence and you feel disrespected. Maybe someone cancels plans and you feel unimportant. The trigger is real, but the story behind it might not be. Emotional intelligence helps you separate fact from feeling. It helps you ask, is this person really disrespecting me, or am I interpreting it through my own lens of hurt? This doesn't mean you tolerate poor behavior. It means you don't jump to conclusions. You respond with wisdom, not wound. There's also environmental triggers, noise crowds, pressure deadlines. Sometimes the environment overwhelms your nervous system. You shut down, you panic, you freeze. It's not weakness. It's your body asking for safety, for stillness, and the more you understand what environments drain you and what environments support you, the better you can design your life with intention. So how do we break the pattern? That space, even just a breath, is everything. It's the moment where you catch yourself, the moment where you realize, I've been here before, but this time I'm not going to react the same way. You slow down, you regulate your breath, you ground yourself, you respond from your higher self, not your hurt self. This takes practice and patience, but every time you do it, the old pattern loses power and a new pattern begins to grow. Here's something that might help: write down your common emotional reactions, not to judge yourself, but to observe. When do you feel triggered? What's the usual reaction? What's the story you tell yourself in that moment? Then ask, what's a better response? I could try next time. This is emotional training. Quiet, personal, powerful, and over time you'll notice something amazing. Situations that used to control you no longer do. People that used to shake you no longer reach you. You've started mastering your triggers, and the reward: peace, clarity, power, emotional freedom. Because when you no longer let your past control your present, you become free to create your future. This is how you rise. This is how you transform, and this is how we move forward into the next chapter, Chapter 4, How to Stay Calm. During emotional storms, life will test you. People will misunderstand you, plans will fall apart, emotions will rise like waves in a storm. But the difference between someone who breaks and someone who rises is calm. Not numbness, not silence. True, calm, grounded, steady stillness that moves from the inside out. Staying calm during emotional storms isn't about avoiding life. It's about learning how to breathe through it. Because storms will come, pain will visit, frustration will knock. But you don't have to invite it in and let it take over. You can stand in the storm and remain whole. That is emotional power. But here's the truth. Staying calm isn't something you do, it's something you become. It's a practice state of being, a decision you make again and again, even when everything around you is shaking. Think about the last time you lost your calm. Maybe someone said something that hit a nerve. Maybe traffic pressure or a small delay triggered something bigger inside you. That moment, that split second between the trigger and your reaction, that's where calm was lost. That pause is where your power lives. Calm starts with the breath, the most powerful yet most ignored tool you carry with you. When emotions rise, your breath becomes short, sharp, shallow. Your heart races, your muscles tighten, your brain stops thinking clearly. You shift into survival mode, and that's when mistakes happen. Now, think about your body, your shoulders, your jaw, your hands. They hold your stress. Your tension shows up in posture before it shows up in emotion. When your body is tight, your mind cannot relax. So the body must lead. Soften your jaw, drop your shoulders, loosen your grip, and feel what happens to your heart. It slows your thoughts clear. Calm begins to enter. But even deeper than breath and body is your story. The meaning you give to what's happening. That's what determines how strong the storm feels. Someone cuts you off in traffic. If your story is, people are so disrespectful, anger flares. But if your story is, they must be rushing to something urgent, you stay calm. Same event, different meaning, different emotion. This is one of the greatest skills of emotional intelligence, choosing the story that serves your peace. Not to lie to yourself, not to avoid reality, but to see from a higher place, to ask, what's the kindest possible reason for what just happened? Not for them, but for you. Because when you protect your calm, you protect your power. Calm also comes from boundaries, saying no to what drains you. Stepping away from toxic conversations, knowing when to engage and when to disengage. You don't have to prove your worth in every fight. You don't have to win every argument. Sometimes walking away is the most powerful move you can make. Staying calm does not mean becoming passive. It means becoming wise, knowing that your energy is precious, that every reaction costs you something, and not everything is worth that cost. Let them talk, let them judge, let them misunderstand. You are not here to manage their emotions, you are here to master your own. And calm is magnetic. When others are spiraling and you remain grounded, people feel it, they trust it. In meetings, relationships, crises, calm people lead. Not because they shout, but because they shine. They think clearly, they move intentionally, they don't feed chaos, they dissolve it. But to become that person, you must learn to sit with discomfort, to feel emotion without being overwhelmed by it, to hold sadness, fear, frustration, and still breathe. Still think, still love. That's what makes you strong. Not how loud you can get, but how deeply you can feel without breaking. And when you do break, because sometimes you will, you return. That's the secret. You don't chase permanent calm. You practice returning. Returning to your breath, returning to your values, returning to your center again and again. Until the storms lose their power, until the chaos no longer pulls you out of yourself. And when others lose their calm, don't mirror them. Don't match their energy. Hold your ground. Not for them, but for you. Because your peace is not a performance. It's your foundation. And when you protect it, you protect your future. It's built within. And once you learn how to carry calm inside you, you win. Not just once, but again and again, for the rest of your life. Chapter 5. The Art of Listening with Emotional Awareness. Most people listen to reply, not to understand. They hear words, but miss the meaning. They nod while already planning their response. That's not listening. That's waiting to speak. True listening, the kind that transforms relationships, builds trust, and creates connection, begins with emotional awareness, because when you listen with your heart, not just your ears, something shifts. The other person feels seen, understood, safe, and in a world full of noise. That safety is rare. That's what makes emotionally intelligent listening so powerful. It's not about fixing people. It's about holding space for them to be real. Listening isn't passive. It's an act of presence, and presence is love. But to truly listen, you must first quiet the noise within you. The judgments, the assumptions, the urge to interrupt, the pressure to be right. Listening means you hear the feeling, not just the fact. You tune into tone, pacing, hesitation. You notice the shift in energy, not just the structure of words. That's where real understanding lives. Let's go deeper. Imagine someone telling you about a bad day, On the surface, it sounds simple. Work was stressful. The traffic was horrible. I'm exhausted. A shallow listener says, yeah, same here. But a deep listener hears more. They hear the tightness in the voice, the unspoken need for support. They lean in and stay quiet, allowing the speaker to feel held, not rushed. That silence, that space is sacred. Emotionally intelligent listeners don't fill it with solutions. They don't hijack the story to talk about themselves. They allow the other person's truth to unfold without interruption, without judgment, and that space becomes healing sometimes. The most powerful thing you can say is nothing. Just be fully there, focused, open, curious, not critical. To listen this way, you must train your nervous system to stay calm, even when emotions rise, especially during conflict. When someone criticizes you or disagrees, your first instinct might be to defend, to interrupt, to prove your point. But emotional awareness says, wait, there's more here. You take a breath, you pause, you ask yourself, what's really being said? Maybe it's not about the words at all. Maybe it's about feeling unheard, unsafe, unseen. That's what listening uncovers, the truth beneath the noise. And this kind of listening changes everything in relationships. It builds deep intimacy in leadership. It builds loyalty in everyday life. It creates peace because people stop shouting when they feel heard. People stop attacking when they feel understood. And even when they don't agree, they respect the space you gave them. Listening is also about energy. People can feel when you are pretending, when you are half present, when you are nodding out of politeness, but thinking about something else. The disconnect creates tension, even if they can't explain why. But when your energy is fully with them, when your attention doesn't drift, they feel it, and in that feeling, they relax. They open up. They trust. Emotionally aware listeners don't just listen to others, they also listen to themselves while listening. They notice when they feel triggered, when their body tightens, when they're rushing to respond, and they self-regulate in real time. They say, I hear them, and I also hear my reaction, but I won't let my reaction take over. That's mastery. That's growth. You'll know you are growing in emotional intelligence when you can sit in a conversation and not need to win it. When you can hear someone's pain without needing to fix it. When you can witness discomfort without escaping it. That's what makes your presence powerful. Not your answers, but your attention. Now, let's talk about validation. Validation doesn't mean agreement. It means acknowledgement. It means saying, I hear you. I see what you are feeling. That one moment of validation can soften walls that years of logic couldn't break. People don't need you to agree with their story. They just need to know you, respect their right to feel it, and sometimes you won't know what to say. That's okay, you don't need the perfect words. Your silence, your eyes, your calm presence. They say more than clever phrases ever could. Listening with emotional awareness also teaches you what not to say. You don't minimize, you don't compare, you don't make it about you. You simply hold space. Sometimes the best listeners are the ones who say the least, but feel the most. And when you speak with softness, with timing, with care. You ask questions not to control the conversation, but to understand it. You speak slowly enough to feel, but clearly enough to guide. That balance creates harmony. That's what makes people feel safe around you. Your tone, not just your talk. Here's something powerful. The more you listen, the more you understand things. People never said, their eyes, their pauses, their shifting energy. You begin to read beneath the surface, not to judge, but to connect. This makes you wise, intuitive, and deeply trusted. People open up to those who don't rush to conclusion. They open up to those who listen with their soul. This is the art of emotional listening, not a tactic, not a technique, a way of being, a calm, steady presence that makes people feel human again. In a world where everyone wants to be heard, be the one who listens, not because you want anything in return, but because you understand. A deep connection begins in deep stillness, And in that stillness you'll find the space where hearts open, wounds soften, and real communication begins. Chapter 6. Mastering the Language of Emotions. Every emotion is a message. Every feeling is a form of communication, and just like spoken language, emotions have their own vocabulary. And when you can pause long enough to ask, what is this anger trying to protect you, begin to understand yourself on a deeper level. Now take sadness. People often try to hide it, thinking it makes them look weak. Sadness is not weakness. Sadness is your soul saying something mattered, something meaningful has changed. Some fear is growth. Some fear is transition. When you learn to decode fear, you stop running from it. You start listening, and listening changes everything. Let's not forget guilt. Guilt often tells you when your actions go against your values. It can help guide your behavior, but only when understood properly. Unhealthy guilt, however, can be used to control you, so you must ask, is this guilt based on my truth or someone else's expectations? That's how you use guilt as a mirror. Not a chain. Even joy has a language. When you feel genuine joy, your body lights up. That's your spirit saying this is aligned. It's when your external life reflects your inner peace. The more you learn to recognize what brings you joy, not just what looks good on the outside, but what feels alive on the inside, the more aligned your choices become. Every emotion, when met with awareness, becomes a guide. The problem begins when people don't know how to feel. They label emotions as good or bad, right or wrong. But emotions are not moral, they're informational. They don't need to be judged, they need to be understood. You might feel envy, and instead of pretending it's not there, ask what it's pointing to. Maybe it's not about the other person. Maybe it's showing you a part of yourself. You've been neglecting a dream. You've buried a desire. You've silenced. When you listen without shame, you begin to unlock truth. And truth sets you free. Now let's talk about emotional vocabulary. Most people describe their feelings with vague surface-level words, like I'm fine, or I'm stressed, or I'm okay. But beneath those words is a much richer, more accurate emotional world. Instead of stressed, maybe you are overwhelmed, or maybe you feel unsupported. Maybe it's pressure, or maybe it's fear of failure. The more precise your emotional vocabulary becomes, the more power you have, because now you are not just reacting, you are reflecting, you are communicating with clarity, both to yourself and others. Think of emotional language as a translator between your inner world and your outer actions. When you say, I'm angry, it's just the beginning. Ask, why is it frustration? Is it hurt? Is it betrayal? The deeper you go, the more healing you access. Emotional fluency also helps you with others. When someone is upset, instead of saying, calm down, which shuts them down, you can say, you seem disappointed, or it sounds like you are feeling overwhelmed. Those words validate, they connect, they say, I see you. And being seen is the beginning of healing. Here's something powerful. The more fluent you become in your own emotions, the less you fear other people's emotions. You stop avoiding conflict. You stop shrinking in front of intensity. That's what makes you emotionally strong. Not your ability to avoid emotion, but your ability to move through it. With wisdom, you can walk through fire and not burn out. You can cry and still lead. You can feel pain and not become bitter. Emotions also live in the body. When you don't listen to them, they don't disappear. They get stored in the neck, the back, the chest, the gut. That's why emotional release is so healing. Crying, breathing, movement, stillness, they all help the body let go of what the mind has been holding on to for too long. You are not just a mind that thinks, you are a soul that feels, and when your mind and soul speak the same language, you become whole. Emotional intelligence is not just about behavior, it's about embodiment, feeling your emotions without being ruled by them, naming your emotions without judging them, expressing your emotions without hurting others. That balance creates emotional freedom And emotional freedom means you no longer fear what you feel. You trust it. You work with it. You let it guide you toward deeper awareness, healthier choices, and more authentic relationships. That's the language of emotions. Not loud, not dramatic, just honest. Learn it, practice it, speak it with yourself, and then with the world, because once you master that language, you never go back to emotional silence again. Chapter 7. How to express your emotions without losing control. There's a myth that expressing emotions means being dramatic, loud, or unstable. That if you show how you feel, you'll lose your power. But that's not true. Real strength isn't about hiding emotion. It's about expressing it clearly, calmly, and courageously, without letting it explode or leak in destructive ways. Emotional expression is not weakness. It's wisdom, but it takes skill because emotions are powerful, and without awareness they can take over the moment, but with the right intention and practice, they can build trust, deepen relationships, and keep you connected to your truth without losing your center. Think about a time when you felt something deeply: anger, hurt, fear, disappointment, but didn't know how to say it. So you either stayed silent and swallowed it, or let it out in a way that damaged the moment. Both silence and outburst are signs of unexpressed emotion, trying to find a voice. The goal is to release, with purpose, to speak from grounded truth, not reactive pain. It starts by knowing what you actually feel. Not just "I'm mad, but I feel disrespected." Not just "I'm fine, but I'm hurt and I feel unheard." The more specific you are, the less the emotion controls you. Because now you are not drowning in it, you are naming it. Naming is the first step toward reclaiming your emotional balance, but knowing how you feel is only half the story. You also need to know why you feel it. What belief, expectation, or experience is this emotion rising from? If someone ignores your message and you feel angry, is it really about them? Or is it about a deeper fear of being unimportant? When you understand the root, you gain clarity, and from clarity comes calm. Now comes the expression, and here tone is everything. It's not just what you say, it's how you say it. You can say, "You never listen to me," with sharpness and shut the other person down. Or you can say, "I feel like I'm not being heard, and that's painful for me." And suddenly there's a chance for connection. You are still expressing truth, but you are doing it from presence, not panic, from ownership, not blame. This is emotional maturity, taking responsibility for your feelings without dumping them on others. Emotionally intelligent people don't say, "You made me feel this way." They say, "This is how I feel." When that happens, it seems like a small shift, but it changes everything. It opens the door for conversation, not confrontation, for healing, not hurt, and expressing emotion doesn't always need to be verbal. Sometimes a letter, sometimes a pause, sometimes a moment of eye contact where everything is said without words. But whatever the form, the intent remains the same: to reveal your truth without creating harm. Let's talk about anger for a moment. Anger is one of the most misunderstood emotions. People either bottle it up until it explodes, or they use it as a weapon. But anger, when expressed with intelligence, can be one of the most powerful tools for truth-telling. When you feel anger rise, take a moment. Breathe. Let the heat cool. Just enough so your words don't burn. Then speak the truth, not from rage, but from clarity. Say what crossed the line. Say what you need. It opens space for empathy. It shows the courage to feel. To say, "I'm sad," doesn't make you fragile. It makes you human. And humans connect through honesty. But honesty must be timed well. Expression must be offered in the right moment, to the right person, with the right tone. Not all truths are meant for all people, and not every moment is the right time to speak. Emotional intelligence helps you read the room, feel the flow, and choose the moment where your truth can actually be received. There's a phrase, "Speak only when your words are more beautiful than silence," But emotional expression is not about beauty, it's about truth. And sometimes truth is raw, awkward, messy. That's okay. You don't have to say it perfectly, you just have to say it honestly, with care. Now let's look at emotional containment. The ability to hold what you feel without letting it spill everywhere. This is not suppression, it's strength. It's knowing how to feel deeply without reacting destructively. You cry, but you don't collapse. You speak, but you don't attack. You are in the fire, but you are not consumed by it. This is emotional grace, to stand inside intensity and still lead with presence. There will be moments when you lose it, when you say too much too fast, when the emotion carries you beyond your intention. That's okay, you are. Human growth is not about being perfect, it's about being aware. The real shift happens when you realize it, apologize without ego, and try again. That's what builds trust. Not perfection, but repair. And sometimes the hardest person to express your emotions to is yourself. You've been taught to stay strong, stay composed, stay in control. Control without expression becomes a prison. It traps your truth, it shrinks your soul, and one day it bursts in ways you didn't expect. So start by being honest with yourself in a journal, in your mind, in a quiet room. Say what's real, feel what's true, and then choose how you want to carry that truth into your conversations. You don't have to speak everything you feel, but don't feel ashamed for what rises inside you. Emotion is not weakness, it's life. And when expressed with clarity, it becomes your bridge to deeper understanding, richer connection, and greater inner peace. This is how you express without losing control, by knowing yourself, by respecting timing, by choosing tone, by leading with heart, not heat. And most of all, by remembering that emotional honesty is not about being loud. It's about being real. That realness is your gift, and when shared with wisdom, it becomes your strength. Chapter 8. Building social confidence from the inside out. Confidence isn't about walking into a room and thinking you are better than everyone. It's walking in and not needing to compare yourself at all. True social confidence doesn't come from the outside, not from compliments, not from likes, not from applause. It comes from the inside, from a quiet sense of self that doesn't shake in the presence of others. But let's be real, we all crave acceptance. We all want to belong. That's part of being human. The problem begins when your self-worth becomes dependent on how people see you. When you start adjusting who you are just to be liked, that's not confidence, that's survival. To build real social confidence, you must first come home to yourself. You must learn to sit with your own company, understand your own emotions, speak your own truth without the constant need for outside approval, because here's the truth. The most magnetic people in any room are not the loudest. They're the most grounded. Social confidence is not the absence of nerves, it's the presence of self-trust. It's walking into a room, knowing that no matter what happens, who ignores you, who talks to you, who agrees or disagrees, you will remain whole. You don't shrink, you don't inflate. You simply stay rooted, and that rooting begins in silence, in the way you talk to yourself when no one's watching. Most social anxiety is born from inner criticism, the voice that says, you are too quiet, you are too weird, you don't belong. That voice is not your truth. It's a recording from the past, a loop built by moments where you felt judged, excluded, or embarrassed, and the more you listen to it, the more it becomes your identity. But you are not that voice. You are the one hearing it. And the moment you realize that, you gain power, because now you can start speaking back. You can rewrite the script, not by pretending to be fearless, but by acting despite the fear. Every time you speak up, even when your voice shakes, you build social strength. Every time you make eye contact, even when you feel awkward, you grow your presence. Every time you stay true to yourself in a crowd, you expand your power. Social confidence is built in moments, not massive achievements, just small choices. Saying hello, asking a question, not apologizing for your existence. Every small act adds a brick to the foundation. And over time, that foundation becomes unshakable. Now let's talk about energy. People don't just hear your words, they feel your energy. If you walk into a room desperate to be liked, that energy pushes people away. If you walk in centered, curious and grounded, people are drawn to you. Why? Because your energy says, I'm okay with me, and I don't need to prove anything. This is what makes social confidence powerful. It doesn't chase. It attracts not by forcing people to see your value, but by standing in it quietly, fully. That quiet confidence is what makes someone unforgettable. But how do you reach that level? It begins with inner work, understanding your fears, where they come from, what they sound like, and then practicing small exposures. You don't need to start with public speaking. Start with a single conversation. Practice presence. Practice holding eye contact for a few seconds longer. Practice listening instead of rushing to speak. Social confidence is not about dominating the room. It's about contributing with presence. When you know who you are, you don't need to control the conversation. You let it flow. You stay grounded, even when others are loud or intimidating. That's strength, silent, unshakable strength. And you know what else builds confidence? Acceptance, accepting your social style. Some people are naturally extroverted. Some are calm, observant, reflective. Both are valid. You don't need to fake extroversion to be confident. You just need to show up as your best, truest self, with calm care and clarity. Let go of the pressure to impress. Let go of the need to say the perfect thing. Focus instead on being present, on listening deeply, on connecting. Honestly, that's what people remember, not your clever lines, but your authenticity. And yes, sometimes people will judge you, sometimes they won't get you. That's okay. Confidence is not built by being liked by everyone. It's built by staying aligned with your truth, even when others don't approve. You are not made to blend in. You are made to be real. So speak with heart, stand with peace, and when doubt shows up, which it will, remind yourself, I don't have to be perfect. I just have to be present. Confidence grows in stillness. It grows in reflection. It grows in every moment. You choose to believe in your worth, even when the world feels uncertain. And over time, that belief becomes visible. It becomes your posture, your voice, your energy. People feel it before you even speak. That's social confidence. Not loud, not showy, but deep, certain, radiant. Build it from the inside, and the world will feel it on the outside. Chapter 9. Emotional boundaries. How to protect your peace without building walls. Not everything that demands your attention deserves your energy. Not everyone who has access to you deserves your inner space. And not every emotion that enters your world needs to stay. This is why emotional boundaries are essential, but boundaries are often misunderstood. Some think boundaries mean shutting people out. Others think it means becoming cold, distant, or selfish. But the truth is, real boundaries don't disconnect you from people. They connect you to yourself. They protect your peace, not your pride, and they keep your energy sacred, not scattered. You were not made to absorb the chaos of everyone around you. You were made to carry your own peace and bring it into the world, but you can't do that if you are constantly letting other people's emotions control your inner weather. Emotional boundaries are the invisible lines that define where you end and others begin. But with boundaries, you become clear, strong, centered. You listen without absorbing. You care without collapsing. You help without overextending. You love without losing yourself. In the process, boundaries begin with self-awareness. You must first know what feels right and what doesn't. Your body knows. When you feel tension, tightness, or a subtle unease around someone, it's a signal. When you constantly feel drained after certain conversations, that's a sign your nervous system is trying to speak to you. Listen to it. Start by paying attention to where your peace is leaking. Is it through people who always take but never give? Is it through expectations that make you feel trapped? Is it through situations that constantly pull you out of alignment? Wherever the leak is, a boundary is needed. But here's where emotional intelligence plays a key role. Boundaries don't need to be aggressive. You don't need to yell, shut down, or cut people off to protect your peace. You can set a boundary with calm, with clarity, with quiet confidence. You can say, "I'm not available for this conversation right now," or "I hear what you are saying, but I need some space to process it," or simply no, without guilt, without explanation, without shrinking, because your peace is not up for negotiation. And remember, people who benefit from your lack of boundaries will resist when you build them. That's not a sign you are doing something wrong. It's a sign your growth is confronting their comfort. Hold your ground with love, with firmness, with respect for yourself and for them. Boundaries are not punishments. They are protections. They are how you keep your energy clean, how you avoid emotional burnout, how you stay connected to your truth. In a world that constantly pulls you in 100 directions, let's talk about emotional dumping. You may love someone deeply, a friend, a partner, a family member, but if they constantly unload their emotions onto you without regard for your capacity, that's not healthy. You are not their therapist. You are not their emotional sponge. You can be supportive but still say, "I'm here for you, but I can't hold all of this right now." That's not selfish. That's honest. You don't have to harden your heart, but you do have to guard your peace. There's also internal boundaries, how you treat yourself. Do you let your inner critic run wild? Do you constantly replay old failures in your mind? Do you let guilt guide your choices? Inner boundaries are just as important as outer ones. You need to be able to say to yourself, "I'm not going to think about this right now," or "That voice in my head is fear, not truth," or even "I deserve rest. I don't have to earn it through exhaustion." These are boundaries with your own mind, and they're powerful. The more you practice boundaries, the lighter you feel, the clearer your decisions become. The more you attract people who respect your energy, because you've learned to respect it yourself. You become more present, more alive, more authentic, because you are no longer carrying emotional weight that was never yours to hold. And when you live with boundaries, you create a space where love, friendship, and connection can grow, not from obligation or emotional chaos, but from clarity and mutual respect. This is not about building walls. Walls keep everyone out, even the people you love. Boundaries, on the other hand, are doors. They let in what nourishes you, and they gently close to what drains you. You choose who enters you, choose how long they stay, you choose how close they come, and in that choosing, you reclaim your power. So protect your peace, not with armor, but with awareness, not with force, but with presence, because your peace is sacred, your energy is gold, and the world needs you whole, not burned out, broken, or bitter. Set the boundary, stand in it, and watch your inner world begin to bloom. Chapter 10. The Power of Emotional Detachment. When to let go and when to hold on. You don't always have to fight, you don't always have to explain, and you don't always have to stay. Sometimes peace is found, not in holding on, but in letting go. Not in pushing harder, but in stepping back. This is the wisdom of emotional detachment. But let's clear something up. Detachment doesn't mean disconnection. It doesn't mean you stop caring, or that you become cold or numb. Real detachment is not the absence of emotion. It's the presence of clarity. It's the strength to feel deeply without drowning. It's the ability to care without losing yourself in the chaos. There's a moment in every relationship, every situation where you feel the tension between holding on and letting go. You feel the pull, the hope, the fear, the weight of memory. But something inside whispers, "This is costing too much." Not in money, but in energy, in peace, in self-respect. That's when detachment becomes your medicine, because sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes loyalty becomes a trap. Sometimes effort turns into exhaustion. No matter how much you give, nothing changes, because you were never meant to fix what's not yours to carry. Detachment is the art of stepping back without shutting down, of observing without absorbing, of witnessing without reacting. It's saying, I see what's happening, I feel the pain, but I will not allow it to control me anymore. This is especially hard when you've invested time, heart, or identity into someone or something. You think letting go means failure, that walking away means weakness. But real strength is knowing when your presence is no longer helping her and having the courage to release so you can rise. Let's talk about attachment for a moment. Most pain comes from attachment, not just to people, but to expectations. You expected them to love you the way you loved them. You expected the job to fulfill you. Detachment allows you to rewrite that story. It says, I can still love you, but from afar, I can still value this. But without needing it to define me, I can still show up, but I won't abandon myself in the process. This is where your emotional intelligence deepens, not in how well you hold on, but in how wisely you let go. You don't have to argue every misunderstanding. You don't have to chase every closure. You don't have to fight to be seen by people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Sometimes the most powerful move is silent space. Absolute. Because detachment teaches you this. Not everything deserves your fight. Not everything needs your proof. Sometimes peace is more important than being right. Your energy is sacred, and who you give it to should be based on alignment, not obligation. This kind of detachment also shows up in personal growth. There comes a time when you must detach from old versions of yourself. The one who stayed silent to be liked, the one who kept overgiving to earn love, the one who accepted less because they didn't know their worth. You thank those versions, you honor them, but you don't live there anymore. You've grown, and growth requires space. Detachment gives you that space. You also learn to detach from emotions as they rise. When anger comes, you feel it, but you don't react from it. When sadness visits, you hold it, but you don't let it bury you. You become the observer, not the captive. That shift changes everything. Detachment is not escape. It's presence with protection. It's saying, I'm here, but I'm not here to bleed. I'm here to witness, to learn, to release. And sometimes releasing means giving others the freedom to be who they are, even if it's not who you hoped they'd be. This doesn't mean you stop loving. It means you stop controlling. You allow life to flow. You stop forcing outcomes. You let go of the timeline, the pressure, the fantasy, and in that letting go, something miraculous happens. Peace returns, clarity deepens, you become lighter, you begin to see what's real, not what you wish was real. You start to feel what's true, not what you forced yourself to believe. You open your hands, not in surrender, but in wisdom. So how do you know when to let go and when to hold on? You look at your inner peace. If holding on is costing you your joy, your sleep, your alignment, it may be time to release. If staying is shrinking you, if the connection feels like walking on glass, if love feels more like anxiety than warmth, those are signals, not punishments, but invitations to grow. And if you are not ready to let go fully, then detach slowly, step back, reclaim your space, find yourself again. You don't have to abandon anyone, just stop abandoning yourself. Because the truth is, when you stop clinging, what's real stays and what isn't, it drifts away as it should. Detachment isn't the end of love, it's the beginning of self-respect, and when you live from that place, calm, clear, whole, you stop fighting for what was, and you start creating space for what will be. Reading people how to understand others without them saying a word. Words are only a small part of communication. People speak long before they open their mouths. They speak through silence, through glances, through posture, through energy, through what they don't say. And if you are paying attention, truly paying attention, you can understand more in a moment of silence than in an hour of conversation. Reading people isn't about manipulation. It's not a trick. It's not about using psychology to control outcomes. It's about tuning in, listening beyond the surface, observing with compassion, sensing what others can't find words for. It's emotional intelligence in motion. Every person carries an emotional frequency. Some enter the room and bring light. Some enter and carry weight. And your ability to read that energy determines the depth of your relationships, both personally and professionally, because the more aware you are, the more you can meet people where they are, not where they pretend to be. Let's begin with presence. Presence is the gateway to perception. You cannot read people when your mind is somewhere else. When you are focused on how you are being perceived, you miss the truth unfolding right in front of you. But when you become fully present in your body, in your breath, in the moment everything opens, you start to notice the little things, the way someone's eyes shift when they're uncomfortable, the way their smile fades, the second they look away, the pause before they answer, the tension in their voice, the way they fold their arms when the topic changes. None of these things scream, but they speak. And what they say is often far more honest than words. Emotionally intelligent people don't just listen with their ears, they listen with their intuition. They sense when someone's "I'm fine" isn't fine. They know when a compliment is genuine and when it's layered with competition. They can feel when someone's silence is calm and when it's screaming with suppressed emotion. But this ability doesn't come from being clever. It comes from being still enough to notice, still enough to feel, still enough to drop your own agenda and tune into what's real. Reading people also means watching patterns. How does someone respond when they feel threatened? Do they get louder, quieter, defensive, dismissive? How do they behave when they feel valued? Do they open up? Do they lean in? Do they relax? People reveal themselves through repetition. Emotional intelligence allows you to step back and see those patterns, not to judge, but to understand. Now, let's talk about emotional masks. Most people wear one, sometimes out of protection, sometimes out of habit. The confident speaker who's terrified of being seen, the kind helper who feels invisible, the loud friend who's hiding pain. You can't always see it, but if you pay attention, you'll sense it, and when you do, don't call it out. Hold space. Make it safe. People remove their masks when they feel seen, without pressure. When your presence says you don't have to perform here, something opens. That opening is trust, and trust is the bridge to real connection. You also begin to notice emotional contrast when someone's words don't match their energy. They say they're excited, but their body is stiff. They say they're okay, but their eyes look distant. That's when your awareness kicks in, not to confront, but to adjust. Maybe soften your tone. Ask gently, or simply stay quiet and stay close. Your energy can say, "I see you," even when your words don't. Reading people also means recognizing projection. Sometimes people don't react to you. They react to what you represent. You remind them of someone who hurt them, or someone who inspired them. They respond on your presence, but to their past. Emotional intelligence helps you not take it personally, to understand what's theirs and what's yours. That separation creates peace. There's also power in reading who's not showing up, not just physically but emotionally. The colleague who works late, always staying one step away from vulnerability. That distance says something. You don't have to chase it, but if you are aware of it, you can hold it with quiet compassion. Let's not forget tone. People's emotions ride inside their voice. You can say the same sentence 100 different ways. "I'm proud of you." When it's rushed, it feels empty. When it's grounded, it heals. When it's warm, it lifts. Tone carries emotion, and when you are tuned in, you hear what's under the words. Then there's timing. The emotionally intelligent person doesn't just know what to say, they know when to say it. They feel the rhythm of the moment. Because people feel understood without having to explain themselves. And when people feel understood, they soften. They trust. They connect. You don't need to be perfect at this. You just need to be present, open, willing to slow down and feel the room to drop. The need to impress and pick up the desire to understand. Reading people isn't about fixing them. It's about seeing them fully, honestly, silently, because in a world that talks too much and listens too little, the one who truly pays attention is the one who truly connects. Chapter 12, Emotional Intelligence in Conflict. How to stay grounded when tension rises. Conflict isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the tension that lingers in silence. Sometimes it's the words that cut without raising the voice, and sometimes it's simply the distance between two people who used to be close, no matter how it shows up. Conflict is a part of life, but how we handle it, that's where emotional intelligence becomes not just helpful, but essential. It transforms it. It turns conflict into a mirror, revealing what matters most, what still hurts, and what needs to be healed to stay grounded. When tension rises, you must first understand what's actually happening inside you. Not just what was said, but what it touched. That sharp comment from someone might have hit a deeper wound. That raised voice might have triggered a childhood memory. That silence might have awakened a fear of abandonment. When conflict hits, emotions rise, but they're not always about the present moment. They're often rooted in the past. Emotional intelligence gives you the awareness to pause and ask, what is this really about? Not just in them, but in you. That pause is where your power lives. It's the moment you catch yourself before you react, the breath you take before you respond, the choice you make to rise above the chaos instead of becoming part of it. Staying grounded doesn't mean you don't feel, it means you don't let the feeling take over. You still feel the heat, the pressure, the sting, but you stay centered. You listen. You stay calm. Not because it's easy, but because you know what's at stake. Peace, clarity, connection. The first rule of emotional conflict: don't match their energy. When someone is yelling, it's easy to yell back. When someone is cold, it's tempting to freeze. Matching energy is a trap. It pulls you into a power struggle. It makes the moment about ego, not understanding. Emotional intelligence teaches you to anchor down instead of flare up, to breathe slower, speak softer, listen deeper, and from that place you can respond with intention, not reaction. Let's talk about triggers. Conflict often activates them. You feel attacked, misunderstood, invalidated. But the goal is not to suppress that emotion. The goal is to own it without being owned by it. You can say that hurt without hurting back. You can say, I need a moment, without walking away forever. That's maturity. That's strength. Emotionally grounded, people don't deny what they feel. They direct it. They express without exploding. They challenge without crushing. They speak truth without violence. That balance is what makes their presence disarming, even in conflict. Now let's talk about listening during conflict. Most people stop listening. They hear, but they're not receiving. They're building their comeback, planning their defense. But true listening in conflict is rare and powerful because it says, I care more about understanding than winning. That alone shifts the energy. Sometimes the best thing you can do is let the other person finish. Don't interrupt. Don't correct. Just stay open, even if you disagree. Even if it hurts, your stillness is not weakness. It's wisdom. It creates safety. And when people feel safe, they soften. Not always, but often. And when it's your turn to speak, speak from the I. Not you always or you never, but I feel I experienced. I need. That shift removes blame and brings ownership. And ownership opens doors. It creates room for growth instead of shame. Emotional intelligence in conflict also means knowing when to walk away, not out of avoidance, but out of awareness. When the conversation turns toxic, when voices rise beyond reason, when neither side is grounded, it's okay to pause to say, let's come back to this later. That's not weakness, that's leadership. Because your goal is not to win the argument. Your goal is to protect the relationship, or if needed, protect your peace. Some conflicts won't be resolved, that's a reality. Some people won't hear you no matter how calmly you speak. Some wounds are too deep, some patterns too old. But even then, your responsibility is not to change them. Your responsibility is to stay aligned with who you want to be. And that's what emotional intelligence gives you. Alignment and chaos. The argument becomes a lesson, the tension becomes a teacher, and your growth becomes the reward. There's something powerful in being the calmest person in the room, not because you are above it, but because you've trained your nervous system to stay steady. That steadiness changes everything. It makes you trustworthy, reliable, safe, and safety is rare in conflict. When you become that safe space, even for yourself, you don't just survive tension, you transform it. You turn heat into light, disagreement into dialogue, pain into power. That is the path of emotional mastery and conflict. As uncomfortable as it feels, is the fire where that mastery is forged. So when tension rises, slow down, feel everything. Say less. Breathe more. Speak from truth, not ego, and walk away proud. Not because you won, but because you stayed in your power without losing your peace. That's how grounded people move through conflict. That's how you grow. Chapter 13. How to deal with emotionally immature people without losing your mind. You are calm, grounded, and growing, but the world isn't always on that same path. Every day, you'll cross paths with people who are reactive, manipulative, defensive, dramatic, or just plain hard to talk to. Emotionally, immature people are everywhere at work, in families, in friendships, even in relationships, and the real challenge isn't just dealing with them. It's doing so without letting them pull you out of your peace. The mistake most people make is expecting emotional maturity from people who've never done the inner work. They expect logic from people who live in denial, respect from those who are ruled by ego, clarity from those who thrive in chaos. That expectation itself becomes a trap because you keep getting disappointed by someone who was never ready to meet you where you are. But emotional intelligence gives you a different approach, one that protects your sanity, honors your growth, and doesn't sacrifice your peace in the process. The first step, acceptance. You must accept that some people, no matter how close they are, no matter how much you love them, may not have the emotional tools to engage in healthy, grounded communication. They may lack self-awareness. They may deflect, project, gaslight, blame, avoid, or explode. That's not your fault, but it is now your responsibility to manage your response. Because what drains you isn't always the person, it's your unfiltered access to them, your repeated attempts to change them, your hope that this time they'll get it. That hope keeps you locked in cycles of frustration. But emotional intelligence teaches you, you don't need to fix them, you just need to stop feeding the pattern. And one of the most powerful tools in your emotional toolbox is detachment, not coldness, not withdrawal. Detachment. You stop reacting, you stop over-explaining, because it keeps them in control, because chaos gives them a sense of power. But when you don't take the bait, when you stay calm, grounded and quiet, you take that power back. This doesn't mean you let them walk over you, it means you respond with strength, not force. You say, I'm not going to have this conversation if we can't do it, respectfully. But guilt is not proof that you've done something wrong. Sometimes guilt is just a sign that you are breaking out of an old cycle of pleasing. Hold your ground. You are not responsible for their reaction. You are only responsible for your own alignment. There's also the trap of trying to educate emotionally people mid-conflict. You want to teach them, show them how they're being toxic, make them see how unfair they're being. But here's the truth. If someone isn't ready to grow, your insight becomes their insult. Your wisdom becomes their threat. So don't waste energy trying to be their mirror. Focus instead on being your own anchor. And if you must stay connected, like in family or work settings, then set emotional boundaries. That means limit access, shorten conversations, avoid emotional landmines, Don't try to connect with someone who only shows up with criticism or drama. You can be civil without being close. You can be kind without being accessible. You can care from a distance. Emotional maturity also means knowing when to stop defending your truth. Immature people often distort your words, twist your intentions, turn your boundaries into accusations, and the more you defend, the deeper you fall into their web. Step out of the web, stop explaining. Let your silence speak. Let your distance explain what words never could. One of the hardest parts of this journey is grieving who they could have been. You might look at them and see their potential, their heart, their moments of goodness. You keep waiting for that version to return. But emotional intelligence teaches you love what's real, not what's possible. You can love someone and still let them go. You can forgive someone and still limit contact. You can hope they grow, but stop sacrificing your growth waiting for it. That's emotional adulthood. It's not always pretty. Sometimes it's painful. It's clean pain, not the dirty pain of repeating the same lesson over and over. You rise above, not out of pride but out of peace, and sometimes that quiet rise will trigger them even more. They'll accuse you of being cold, selfish, distant. Let them, that's their discomfort speaking. You don't have to convince them of your integrity, you just have to stay in it, because the moment you stop playing their game, you break the cycle, you show them, even if they never say it, that emotional maturity is possible, that it exists, that it's real, and maybe someday they'll be ready to meet you there. But until then, you protect your energy. You speak your truth. You hold your line, not with anger, but with grace, not with ego, but with love for yourself, for your peace, for your future. That's how you deal with emotionally immature people. Without losing your mind, you stop trying to change them, and you start choosing you. Chapter 14, Social Mastery. How to make people feel safe, seen, and drawn to you. You don't need to be the loudest person in the room to be the most remembered. You don't need to impress people to leave a lasting impact. The truth is, the people who draw others in, who command presence without noise, who make everyone around them feel warm, safe, and understood, they've mastered something deeper. It's not charm. It's not manipulation. It's emotional alignment. It's social mastery. And social mastery isn't about tricks. It's about presence in a world full of performance. Authenticity is rare, and the rarest gift you can offer someone is your full attention, your grounded energy, your eye contact, your stillness. That kind of attention is healing. People can feel when you are not rushing them, when you are not listening just to speak, when you are not judging, analyzing, or fixing, just being there. This kind of presence makes people feel safe, because it says, without words, you matter. You don't have to perform here. When people feel safe, they open up, they relax, they unfold, and in that space, connection happens. Real connection. Not surface-level nods, but soul-level recognition. Social mastery begins with this simple truth. It's not about how interesting you are. It's about how interested you are. People aren't drawn to perfection. They're drawn to warmth, to calm, to someone who doesn't make them feel small, less, or unseen. And you become that person, not by trying harder, but by grounding deeper. When you walk into a room with a calm heart and a quiet mind, people feel it. You are not there to compete. You are not there to take. You are simply there fully. That's rare, and people are instinctively drawn to it. Your energy introduces you before your words do. When you've done the inner work, healed, your triggers owned your truth. Let go of the need to prove your presence becomes peaceful, and peace is magnetic. Not to expose you, but to honor you. Emotionally intelligent people learn to read those cues. They notice when someone's smile doesn't reach their eyes. They sense when someone's voice sounds light, but their energy feels heavy. They know how to say, "You seem a little off today," in a way that opens a door, not a wound, and that door, once opened, becomes a moment of intimacy. But this isn't about being a therapist. It's about being human. being kind, being awake to the emotions behind the masks. The key is sincerity. People can feel fake empathy. They can feel when you are being polite, but distant. But when you are genuinely tuned in, even if you don't say much, they feel it. Your presence says, "I'm here. I see you. You are safe." This is what makes people drawn to you, not your looks, your success, or your cleverness, but your presence. Now let's talk about humility. True social mastery is never about being the star. It's about making others shine in your presence. It's about asking good questions, holding space, celebrating their wins, remembering small details they thought no one noticed. That doesn't make you weak. That makes you unforgettable, because people don't remember everything you said. They remember how you made them feel, and if you made them feel safe in their uncertainty, if you made them feel when they were invisible, if you made them feel calm when everything else was noise, then you left a mark that no performance ever could. Another trait of social mastery, consistency. Anyone can be charming for 5 minutes, but real magnetism comes from consistency, from being emotionally steady, from not shifting your tone based on who you are talking to, from not gossiping, not judging, not chasing attention. People trust those who are the same in public and in private. Social mastery also includes boundaries. You are not available to everyone. You don't give your peace away just to be liked. You know how to leave a conversation that feels toxic without burning bridges. You know how to say no calmly, respectfully, and mean it. This protects your energy, and protected energy always feels powerful. Finally, the most magnetic people are not obsessed with being magnetic. They're just deeply connected to themselves. They've done the work, they've healed the noise, they've slowed down enough to really see others, and in doing so, they create space for others to see them too. That's what social mastery is, not noise, not charm, just presence. And the deeper your presence, the wider your impact, because when people leave your company, they might not remember your clothes, your words, or even your story. They will remember how they felt around you, and if they felt safe, seen, and valued, they'll never forget you. Chapter 15. Emotional intelligence is a lifestyle. Keep growing, keep connecting. Emotional intelligence is not something you master once and move on. It's not a checklist you finish or a skill you learn and forget. It's a way of living. It's not just about staying calm in conflict, or listening with empathy or setting boundaries. It's about who you become when no one's watching. How you treat yourself when you fail, how you carry others' hearts in your words, how you walk into a room and make it feel lighter just by being present. This journey you've taken through awareness, regulation, empathy, connection, boundaries. It's not the end, it's the foundation, the beginning of something deeper, because emotional intelligence isn't about being perfect. It's about being real, being human, being fully alive, and being fully alive means staying open to discomfort, to feedback, to growth. It means being willing to look at your own patterns again and again, not to judge, but to understand. It means noticing when your old habits come back and gently choosing a new response. You see, this path doesn't promise a life without emotion. It promises a life where emotion no longer controls you, where you feel fully, live fully, and still hold your center. That's emotional freedom, and the more you live this way, the more your life transforms, quietly, steadily. You begin to speak more truthfully. Not to be bold, but to be clear. You no longer waste energy trying to please everyone. You focus on alignment, not approval, and that shift gives you power. The kind of power that can't be taken or faked. You also stop being addicted to being understood. You know your intentions. You know your values. You don't explain yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You choose peace over proving. You let go of the need to be right and rise into the need to be real. And through it all, you keep growing, because emotional intelligence isn't a destination. It's a relationship with your own evolution. Some days you'll feel grounded and graceful. Other days you'll fall back into old patterns. But now you'll notice, and noticing is the first step back to present. Growth is messy, but so is healing. So is life. The difference now is you don't run from it. You don't numb it. You meet it. You breathe through it. You sit with it. That's what makes you strong. That's what makes you free. And that freedom doesn't just change your inner world, it changes your relationships. You begin to attract different people, not because you are better, but because you become clearer. You stop tolerating emotional gains. You stop accepting one-sided connections. You surround yourself with people who honor your boundaries, match your energy, and hold space for your heart. You stop seeking connection through need and start building it through wholeness, and you become someone people trust. Not because you say the right things, but because your presence feels safe. They can bring their truth to you without fear. They can cry, laugh, stumble, and still feel seen. That's not charisma. That's character. You carry that energy into every room you enter, into every relationship you build, into every conversation you have, because emotional intelligence is not a switch. You flip when things get hard. It's the default setting. You train through intention. It's the way you live, the way you pause before reacting, the way you breathe when tension rises, the way you forgive, not for them but for your own peace, the way you listen without interrupting, the way you let go of what no longer feeds you, the way you stay soft in a world that rewards hardness, the way you hold your own heart and others with care. This is your power, not perfection, not performance, just presence. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs more people who've come alive on the inside, people who know how to feel and still function, who know how to lead with empathy, speak with clarity, and act with grace. That's who you are becoming, not by force, by choice. One moment at a time, one breath at a time, one honest conversation at a. So don't stop here. Keep growing. Keep noticing when old patterns try to pull you back, and respond with new awareness. Keep building relationships where truth is welcomed. Keep healing the parts of you that once needed chaos to feel alive, and replace them with peace. Because you are not just learning emotional intelligence, you are becoming emotionally intelligent, and that changes everything, not just for you, for everyone around you, because your growth gives others permission to grow. Your calm gives others space to soften. Your presence becomes a light, steady, quiet, real, and when you walk that path, no matter how messy, slow, or uncertain it feels, you are doing something that matters. You are building a life from the inside out, and that kind of life, it always wins.